Californians contacted his radio station, newspapers, and local TV stations, attempting to determine his whereabouts, but to no avail. Now, after living in exile for over a year, Tom Leykis returns to Southern California. It's KFI's worst nightmare. The Tom Leykis Show on 710 Talk.
3:06. Thank you for tuning in to 710 Talk, the new talk station here in Los Angeles. My name is Tom Leykis, and we're going to be with you every afternoon from 3 until 7 as you head home. We thank you so much for tuning in at the beginning of this very exciting new venture. And by the way, I want to tell you, it is more exciting than you may know, because if you haven't heard about this yet, I got to tell you, this is the beginning of a national broadcast that will start a week from today. We're doing a week of shows that will only be heard here in Southern California. And then a week from today, we're going to begin being heard in as many as 30 cities. We'll have the final tally when we get up to next Monday. But you can tell your friends in Seattle and San Francisco and San Diego and West Palm Beach and Cleveland and all around the country that our program, which is emanating from here in Los Angeles, will be heard all across America. We are very excited about that. An awful lot of things are going to be going on here today. Coming up in the second half of our program, for those of you who know who I am, and what I've done in the past, and who wondered whatever happened to you, I'm going to tell you. That's going to be coming up after the 5 o'clock news today here on 710 Talk, the new talk station. And, of course, a little later this week, we have some other things planned. We have the mayor of Los Angeles, Richard Riordan, who is the new mayor. He was not the mayor when I left Los Angeles. We'll talk a little bit about that. We'll be joined later in the week by activist Don Jackson, who, among other things, has been the spokesperson for Danian Football Williams. He'll be joining us live via satellite later in the week, and many other things. We'll also have plenty of time for just you and I to get together and talk and kind of catch up on where we've been. It's been over a year and a half since we were able to talk together on the radio, and I am very excited to be back here on the air on the new 710 Talk. I will give you our telephone number a little later. I'm afraid if I give out the telephone number now, what's going to happen is everybody's going to call in and start fawning. You know the fawning thing they start doing? Hello, Tom. We're just so happy you're back. I was starting to get angina when you left, and we're not looking to do that here, okay? There's no need to tinkle all over me. We're back, and that's the deal here, okay? I'm welcoming a guest to our program that, as we've told people he's going to be here, nobody believed he would be my guest. And the reason nobody believed he would be my guest is because on September 25th, 1992, I found out that I was no longer going to be doing a radio program in Southern California, about 40 minutes before airtime, and I found out that the man sitting next to me was going to be my replacement. I never believed he would be my permanent replacement, not because he did or didn't have the ability to do the job. I just never believed that was the long-term plan, and it turned out that seems to have been the case. Anyway, joining me here is the former police chief of the Los Angeles Police Department. He was with LAPD for over 40 years, 14 years as the chief of police in this city, Daryl Gates. And I thank you for coming down here today.
Oh, Tom, I'm just delighted to be here, having replaced you. I don't think I replaced you. I just filled in for you.
You did not fill in for me because I never came back.
Well, no, but I filled in your spot, and but I didn't replace you. I don't think anyone can replace Tom Leykis, of course.
Oh boy, he's tinkling all over me already. This is interesting.
Well, you want to get some of that stuff in there.
Well, exactly. Now we're going to get to all the stuff you're involved in now, and there are cameras here and photographers flashing and what have you. All this stuff is going on around us. But first, I want to talk about your experience being a radio talk show host, because you are somebody who spent years criticizing the media, especially the Times. You just have a Jones for the Los Angeles Times, and still do. And I'm wondering now what it was like to be on the other side and to be doing this and attacking other people and organizations instead of being the one being attacked.
Well, it was kind of interesting, Tom. First of all, it gave me an opportunity to say a lot of things I wanted to say and gave me a forum to say them. That's one of the reasons that I was enticed to do the show, is that they said, hey, you can talk about anything you want to. And as you know, I've done a lot of talking and got myself in a great deal of trouble.
Yes.
This was an opportunity to get paid for it. And so I did that. I continued to attack the Los Angeles Times. Not that I don't believe it's a great newspaper. I think it's one of the great newspapers in the world. It just runs so poorly, and the stuff they put in there is such bad stuff, and the editorial pages are filled with junk. But anyway, aside from that, it's not a bad newspaper.
But wait a minute now. Most people consider this to be a world-class newspaper.
Yeah, it is. It is. That's why I think it's such a shame that it's so poorly managed and so poorly run, and the editorial pages are so badly written and so lacking in
the editorial pages?
Editorials are so lacking in a factual basis for their editorials. And you know, they're mealy-mouthed. I always used to tell the Los Angeles Times, please do not ever say anything nice editorially about me, because you can never figure it out. And if you ever read their editorials, they're never precise. They never really get to the point. It's back and forth, and when you're finally through, you say to yourself, what'd they say?
What's the problem? You think they just don't like you, or why would they pick you? I've heard you on the radio. I want to know why they just reached out and they picked Daryl Gates to be the whipping boy. Why you?
I don't think they picked me. I think because I was highly critical of them, that this gave them a reason to pick on me. I don't think there's any question about that. And also, you have to go back in history. Los Angeles Times has, for years, tried to run things in Los Angeles. Whenever they said anything, Tom Bradley jumped through the hoops. Whenever they said anything, you'll see the city council starting to do something special. That's the way the Times has kind of run things in the city. And the only guy that they were never able to push around was Daryl Gates. The only guy they could never run was Daryl Gates. The only organization they were never able to deal with effectively in their terms was the Los Angeles Police Department, and they hated that. It's a matter of power.
Didn't a lot of people hate that, though? I mean, weren't a lot of people frustrated about the fact that they couldn't get you to retire?
Yeah, there was a lot of people that felt that way, Tom. There a lot of people, not just the Los Angeles Times. But, speaking of the Times, you asked me, I took the job once again because I was told I would have the opportunity to talk about anything I wanted to, and KFI was very good about that. I did and was allowed to talk about anything I wanted to. They said, don't get us sued. That's the only thing you have to be careful about. And in the first week, I managed to get them sued. So,
very good.
Yeah, very good, yeah.
Good work. Now, my wife, who's sitting right in the window there, she did not get any Christmas presents because you took my job away. See her there? There she is. There she is.
I apologize.
Right in there.
I apologize.
She's right there.
Yeah.
I mean, that was it. Didn't you think about that? When you came in and took my job, didn't you consider the possibility that there'd be people going hungry and without fur coats that year?
I didn't even inquire as to why. I didn't ask. People ask me over and over, what happened to Tom Leykis? And I said, hey, look, I don't know anything about it. I didn't get into it with KFI. That was a management decision. I had nothing to do with it. They asked me to fill in, and I did.
That's good. Okay. Well, I mean, to be honest with you, if it were me, I certainly would have taken the gig. As a matter of fact, I replaced a good friend of mine when I went to Boston to work, and she's still not talking to me. You and I had never met.
No.
This is someone I've known for a long time, and she's still not speaking to me. Now, did you like that work? I mean, did you like being a radio talk show host?
Well, I did and I didn't. It was unique for me, Tom. First of all, let me say, I am not a professional in this business. You guys are, and I learned. No, and I'm being very serious about this. I learned a great deal about how difficult this profession is. It is a difficult profession. I mean, you have to stay up all the time, and you've got to stay alive all the time. You got to have something interesting to deal with. I don't want to say stimulating. You got to have something interesting to say. You got to stay up with your listeners. You got to stay up on the information. It's a hard business, and you have to continue to talk and be lively and make people think you're lively when you're not. So it's a tough business. I enjoyed it because it gave me an opportunity to talk with folks out there. being chief of police, you go out and make a lot of speeches, you go out and talk to a lot of people, but you don't get this one-on-one kind of situation that you do in talk radio. And I think people found that I was a little different individual. Not all, but most people found out I was a little bit different individual than...
People thought you were a really nasty guy in those sound bites on TV, and then you were like a puffball on the air.
Yeah, and they said, gee...
I heard you with Ramona Ripstein. You were tinkling all over her.
Oh, well, no, that we didn't have enough time with Ramona.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, we were just starting to get warmed up, and she had to go. So, no, I had a lot of things to deal with her about, because Ramona the Ripper...
You were downright nice to her.
I
was waiting for you to give her this whole ACLU, Los Angeles Times spiel, and there she is. You're just letting her go.
I know, it was the build-up. She had to go, but I was hoping for another hour with her, and it didn't work out. But I tried to get her back because there were a lot of things I wanted to deal with her. I think, you know what I think about the ACLU and Ramona.
That's why I was amazed.
Yeah.
I thought for sure you'd have that talk show instinct to just go for the jugular. It didn't happen.
No.
All right, we're talking with former LAPD Police Chief Daryl Gates, the man who took my job and denied my wife the opportunity to get a fur coat, all kinds of Christmas gifts that year.
No fur coats these days.
We were living in a cardboard box down on Hill Street. It was terrible. I couldn't believe it. We were there with a sign, "We'll talk for food." It was amazing. Anyway, we're going to continue with the chief and your telephone calls. All right, here comes the phone number now that you know what we're doing, okay? The telephone number here is 1-800... You're going to love this phone number, folks. 1-800-5800-TOM. That's 1-800... You like that?
Whoa.
I like that.
1-800-5800-TOM.
Tom. That's right. 1-800-5800-866. That's all you have to dial if you'd like to get on the air here at the new 710 Talk, which is the new talk station. And we're going to be taking your telephone calls coming up as we continue with former LAPD Police Chief Daryl Gates on the Tom Leykis Show. It's 22 minutes after the hour, the Tom Leykis Show. On 710 Talk, the new talk station. Thank you for tuning in. 1-800-5800-TOM is our telephone number. 1-800-5800-866. You can dial right in. The phones are just ringing off the hook here. But if you're calling to fawn, don't fawn until 5, okay? Can we save the fawning till then? Because we are doing this interview with Daryl Gates here, and then we will get to the fawning part of the program. I'm not looking for you to tinkle all over me later, but I just know there's going to be a certain element out there that's going to want to do that. That's coming up a little later on. We are talking to former Police Chief Daryl Gates, and by the way, I remind you that beginning next Monday, our show will be heard in about 25 to 30 other cities around the country, so tell your friends all over America, and certainly all over California. They'll be able to hear our program starting next Monday, May 9th, across America. Our show produced by the good folks here at Westwood One. Anyway, we continue with Daryl Gates. Now, here you are in the middle of this Rodney King civil suit, and you were supposed to testify, I guess, on Friday. Then a juror took ill. Then people said you were testifying today. What happened?
I told the judge I have to be on your show.
You did?
Of course, I said, I can't testify today. I've got to be on the Tom Leykis show.
Absolutely.
And the judge said, whoa, who's Tom Leykis? No, he didn't. Actually, I was supposed to testify on Wednesday. I was supposed to testify on Thursday. Then an attorney got sick on Thursday, and they postponed the trial on Friday. And they came back today, and I think I'm going to testify tomorrow, but I'm not sure.
Now, of course, we've been hearing the story. Of course, Rodney King, in the first phase of the trial, got an award of $3.8 million from the city of Los Angeles, and now we're in that punitive phase, and you and a bunch of other folks, I guess, are, at this point, possibly personally liable if damages are awarded. What do you think about that?
Well, you're right, Tom. That's punitive damages, and those are assessed against you personally. And you have to stop and think about this. A lot of people out there say, what's wrong with that? This is, in my judgment, economic terrorism against these police officers. It doesn't just hit the police officers. It hits their families, their kids, their homes, their pensions, everything they've worked for. And there isn't any insurance for this kind of thing. There's no way you can have insurance. So it's a very serious matter. Now, the city can pick up the tab, but they don't have to. It will depend on how the city council views this, and they don't view me very well, as you know.
So you think that you're going to be stuck for the tab?
Well, I don't know. I have no way of knowing that.
If there is a tab, we don't know if there'll be any.
We don't know
tab.
whether there is. We're going to have to wait until the jury makes that decision. I have a hard time believing that they can come back with punitive damages against anyone. The officers who have been convicted in this case have been convicted. They've lost everything. They've lost their reputation. They've lost their livelihood. They're in prison. There's no way you can squeeze any money out of them. The other officers, I don't know how they're going to suggest that they have any liability whatsoever in this. And I was in Washington when all of this happened, but they're going to claim that I was a brutal chief of police and I sanctioned brutality out there, which is absolute, utter, complete nonsense.
Can you afford to pay these damages? I mean, according to KFI, you were making big bucks for the long-term contract. That's what I heard. Now, if that's true, you ought to be able to afford this.
Tom, I worked in law enforcement for 43 years. I still have 2 big mortgages on the 2 places I own, and I've never paid off a mortgage in my whole life. I look at these politicians. Look at Tom Bradley. He's a millionaire over several times over, and I've never understood how they did this. I guess I lived 43 years on my salary, and I spent every penny of it, and no, I don't have any money.
So you couldn't pay. If they say to you $100,000 or $1 million or $10 million, what happens? You declare bankruptcy? What do you do?
I'm not sure what I'd do, Tom. I'll just have to wait and see what would happen. But I'm more worried about the police officers there. I don't think people understand how this impacts these police officers and how it impacts other police officers who say, hey, wait a minute. If I go out and assert myself and do something out there and then I'm sued later, again, this is not going to just impact me. This is going to impact my families, my future, my pension, everything I've worked for. And so a lot of police officers throughout the United States are going to look at this trial, and if punitive damages do come down, they're going to say, whoa, maybe I ought not to get involved. Maybe I ought to step back and just kind of watch things before anything happens.
Now, couldn't people argue, well, gee, now people could argue this. I'm just quoting them now.
Yeah.
Couldn't people argue, my goodness, maybe people ought to think about that before they take out the taser and start wailing on someone?
Well, wait a minute. First of all...
We're not talking you now. We're talking the cops.
But you're talking about, and I mentioned, the 2 officers who have been convicted after 2 trials. Now, nobody else gets 2 trials, but police officers, 2 trials. They've been convicted. They've lost everything. They've lost, as I said, their reputations, all of their money. Stacy Coons has 4 kids and a wife, and they've lost their home.